listening to you all, one imagery came to my mind, which I observed while sitting waiting for the flights in the airport. You might have also observed a child walking away from the mom, and then going only a particular distance, then turning back and coming towards the mom. And another thing is how far the mom allows the child to go before she goes and picks it up. So there are two sides to this whole ownership dimension. One is from the individual who has to rise to that sense of ownership or that mindset, as you all have been talking about. And second is the organizational hierarchy creating that sense of ownership or that environment. So that is very important. And so there are two sides to the whole thing. How does this person rise to that sense of ownership? And what does the management do to create that environment to make this person come to that level of ownership? So that I would like to listen from you on that point, that on either side, what is required, whether it is in the individual, which makes the management feel that I can uh, give this person a little more, and that person rises to that occasion. And from the management side, what are the dynamics that are required? Another thing is the diversity in the organizations and their works. There are varieties now in a production facility. Perhaps right now you might be thinking or talking from the terms of the management executives, the sense of ownership, where there is a possibility of taking decisions. What about people who are only at the shop floor? Uh, how do we give them that sense of ownership? Yeah. So that is another perhaps a diversity. And like my interactions with IT executives, students who were there on campus, and I was asking this question: when did you find your work made sense to you, meaningful to you? They, most of them said that most of the time it did not make any sense because I was just writing a few lines of a long code which I did not know what it was for. That is where I would like to hear from you on any of these things. Perhaps take one at a time. That what is it that is required in the management to create an environment? First, that is something which you can focus upon.
So I'll give you, if you look at the work of any organization, and this is an old McKinsey model, but I still like it. There is the three horizons, right? Horizon one is what we need to do to deliver today. It's what our shareholders expect of us. It is commitments that if you're a listed company, it's commitments you've made to the street. Even if you are a privately held company, it's commitments you've made and declared publicly. So it's about getting the job done for here and now, right? Keeping business as usual happening. Horizon 2 is tomorrow. So what are the risks you're taking? Where are you investing? So on and so forth, right? And Horizon 3 is a little bit crystal ball gazing. It's about possibilities. It's about bringing variables together and really thinking ahead of the curve to how things may arise. Now, you have people who will be doing components of work that may be heavily tilted to one with components of others, right? But at every stage, every horizon, the reality is one, ownership means getting the job done. There will be days when processes work beautifully, and then there will be days when there are unseen circumstances that arise because of controllable or uncontrollable factors. Ownership is, do you go above and beyond to solve and get things back on track? It may be anything that you do, right? It may be reaching out, getting in touch with cross-functional stakeholders, but getting the job done. That is what ownership is represented from one point of view. What enables that? Organizational policies that enable that is how much connectivity are we enabling? Right? So do we have technology that enables connections, for instance, right? Do we have a culture where teams talk to teams, and therefore it's not just the black box of the team that you're in, but it's really an organization where you're connected across board? That could be one aspect of it. I think the other aspect of it is, what are the stories that we celebrate? Who are our heroes? Are our heroes the people who just have done certain things like they've always been done? Or are heroes people who live certain values, who are true to the purpose of the organization, but who also show that drive to go above and beyond what is written down, right? So that would be a second representation. I think the third representation of ownership that is very, very important, specifically in the world that we live in, is how are people going above and beyond? I'm going to give you an example. Prompt engineering, right? The number of people that we have who are self-taught prompt engineers and who have used that ability or that skill to leverage the power of technology to enhance effectiveness. It could be in terms of efficiency, productivity, cost reductions, whatever it is, of their own initiative. That's what it is. But what the organization needs to do for that is democratize learning, democratize technology availability, make that investment, because if you're investing in your people, then you're investing in them with the tools that they can take charge of and make things happen, because gone are the days when people at the top had all the answers. They're figuring out the answers along with everybody else more often than not. So, three examples.
Yeah, I can go with what we do, and as a company who's into the manufacturing and agriculture, so our people work very closely with the farmers, and then so we source the produce which the farmer grows, and then so we have teams who are working closely with the farmers for growing what we need. So that's one season, and then they have all the authority in terms of like training the farmers in terms of the best practices, helping them to increase their yield, and also to ensuring the farmers to create facilitate that the farmer sells to us, so that, I mean, of course our factories run more. But in the second part of the season, the farmer grows which we don't need, and then we have allowed our people, like, because they are managing those centers, they are managing those villages, that okay, they have time so that they can go out and actually meet other people and help the farmers sell those produce which we don't need. So basically, like because if we expect our people, like, they work closely with the farmers and bring the produce to us so that we can utilize our production unit, we'll also need to give them, to help them, that they help the farmers to basically like win in the other season, and then like overall earnings grow. So I think it's more that how you create that win-win situation for your people, for your organization and your customers or your suppliers, so that the sense of belongingness increases, and that's the ultimate win factor.
You know, so if I may, kind of try to take a different view to it. Like you earlier said, I think one is that ownership is not a monolithic conversation, right? I mean, I think that industry to industry, company to company, stages at which they are, I mean, the ownership conversation will change within the same company as well. If I have to kind of even imbibe or have a conversation which says, for example, you need to own in the classical way that we define ownership, or for example, even the way we are defining it here. What I'm talking to, for example, a finance team is probably a very different structure compared to if I'm talking to a product innovation team. My finance team cannot be necessarily innovative classically, right? So, I mean, their ownership structure that conversation has got to be within extremely regulated guardrails, right? But if I put the same set of guardrails, if I do not let my product innovation team push those guardrails way, then really I'm not asking them to do anything else. There is no sense of ownership coming in, because that innovation is a different thing out there, right? I think it therefore also depends upon how much do we see it at a more macro level in terms of the different teams, different organizations at stage where you are. If I want a breakthrough in my organization on a product side, it's a very different conversation versus if I'm a steady state company and I know that, for example, I have to play to the street, it's a very different kind of an ownership conversation that I may have. At the core of it, the structure probably stays the same, but I think the conversation in terms of how leadership thinks about it, what needs to be said, what needs to be culturally put together, I think that changes.
And Father, sorry, after you. No, I was just saying the point you made about what do organizations need to do to enable ownership, and I agree that ownership is different across different teams, different industries. It all depends on the end objective that you're looking at from an organization point of view. But we are Oak North. It's a digital bank, and we do lending in UK and US. And one thing that we do is focus a lot on transparency. So transparency within teams in terms of explaining them where we stand as a business. So every week we would do a 15 minutes call where the entire company comes together. You share the metrics with everyone, you celebrate the wins, you tell them what is not working, and invite ideas from the team. That just creates a whole different culture. And not just with the teams, with our customers, so which are borrowers. So if we are analyzing a loan from a potential borrower, and one thing we do is we invite those borrowers in the credit committee, and they can listen to all the discussions transparently in terms of what is going on. And if we are not convinced, we would immediately tell the borrower that, okay, we are not underwriting that loan because of X, Y, Z reasons. And that just, again, creates a whole different organizational setup where teams understand what is going on at each level, and they are able to contribute in a very different way, taking ownership of different things that you are expected to do across different teams, across different levels, and so on and so forth.
See, I feel still more clarity is required before we go on to operationalizing ownership. And why I say that is because if you are true to the word, being an owner means I do as I please. But we haven't said that. We said act like an owner. We said take ownership. But after that, we have said alignment, we've said expectations, we've said task, outcomes, boundaries, roles, KPIs. So yes, please act like an owner, but oh my God, I'm going to keep drawing only one box, but several boxes around you, how you can go about acting as an owner in my organization. So that's the flavor I was getting. So I feel more clarity is required, and the clarity which I think is needed, because clarity is what will set the tone of the culture which has been talked about. Culture to me simply is a set of behaviors. These are some things you will do. These are some things you are okay with. These are some things we frown upon, and these are some things we are not okay with. And there's just 4 categories. So perhaps we again go back to a set of acceptable, responsible behaviors within which you will achieve your outcomes and you will receive your incentives, which has been talked about, regardless of tenure. So I still feel, 2 decades ago, we used to say, let's make a plan. Then somewhere we started saying, let's evolve a strategy. We meant the same thing. So maybe I think we should be careful with the word ownership and still stick to responsibility and carried out with a set of responsible behaviors which are clearly spelled out.
I guess the question in my mind, though, is that any owner, whether it's an entrepreneur, an individual promoter, partners running a firm, they may have the independence to determine the course of action, but they are accountable. They are accountable to investors. They are accountable to employees. They are accountable. They are also responsible for a set of commitments that they have made. If they've raised money from the bank, they are responsible for performance. And therefore that nobody, whether it's the CEO of a company, whether it's the promoter of a company, nobody has unlimited independence. It is freedom in a framework. And that framework is commitments that you have to deliver to. So